Cecilia goes running every day to try to calm her nerves, but she can't forget a day years ago that changed her life forever.
When they came, I let my daughter open the door.
At the door were two child protection experts. Their job, to advise the authorities whether or not she could keep her daughter.
I was very scared and I didn't want them in my house in the first place. I hadn't asked for them to come to my house and observe us together.
The Child Protection Service was worried that the little girl wasn't developing as she should, and that Cecilia had consistently rejected their offers of help. So she took him up here?
Yeah, she took him up here to the...
During their visit, the experts scrutinised everything, from her interaction with her daughter to the state of the rooms.
They accused me of, just neglect, that emotional neglect. And it's very difficult to defend yourself against those charges.
The report the experts wrote was devastating for Cecilia. It recommended that her daughter should go into long-term foster care because her potential development would be limited if she stayed with her mother.
I didn't know, that they took away children from quite normal persons because I'm not a drug addict. I'm not criminal person. I'm not violent.
Nevertheless, the recommendation was approved at Oslo District Court, where the experts appeared as witnesses. Fast forward several years to April this year, and one of those two experts, a psychiatrist, reappeared in the same courthouse. This time, though, he wasn't in the witness stand, he was in the dock. It was the trial of one expert, but it raises much wider questions about the whole Norwegian child protection system, a system that's been widely criticised for being too ready to take children away from their parents. You're Rune, yes? Yeah, that's right. Family rights campaigner Rude Fardal was in court when the psychiatrist admitted downloading 200,000 images and 4,000 hours of video of child sex abuse over 20 years.
The majority, I think, was 10 until 14, but there were also very small babies. There was young boys having oral sex on each other and on grown-up men. There was rape. There was disabled children. Every fantasy you can think of in a bad way was explained there.
The expert was sentenced to nearly 2 years in jail. I'm not going to name him for legal reasons, but he's a man who played a key role not just in Cecilia's case, but in those of many other families too.
And here are the girls' lunch boxes.
5 years ago, 4 of Inez's children were suddenly taken away by the Child Protection Service, which is known as Barnevernet.
I got a phone call from someone telling me that I have to come home. The Barnevernet has taken the children and my hubby had been arrested.
Your husband had been arrested?
Yes. It was so absurd. Obviously it was a mistake. And then when I came there, they said I was arrested. And it was so strange to find myself in a cell. And I just remember being so scared because this was madness.
There'd been allegations of smacking, which is illegal in Norway, but the father was soon released without charge, and later Inez was acquitted at a criminal trial. 2 of her children were then returned, but the youngest 2 are still in foster care more than 2 years later. That's despite a report from 2 of Norway's most respected psychologists, which praised Inez's parenting skills and recommended that the family be reunited.
We find it impossible to believe that so carefree, positive and undisruptive children can come from the home described in the accounts that form the basis of the child protection and police actions.
So why was that conclusion disregarded? Because a supervisory body, Norway's Child Expert Commission, said it was biased. One of the two commission members who made that comment was the now convicted and disgraced psychiatrist.
I would look into that case and say...
The co-author of that allegedly biased report was Reidar Hjermann.
The judge almost always agrees with the expert.
He's Norway's former child ombudsman, the official responsible for guarding children's interests throughout the country. So I assume he knows all about the disgraced expert. One of the most experienced, prominent child psychiatrists working partly in the child welfare system was convicted of downloading a very large amount of child pornography. What question marks does that raise over the system?
I wouldn't say that this has something to do with this system at all. You will find rotten eggs in any basket, and still sometimes people who have done bad things, they also do things that is quite good and normal.
But there's a Child Expert Commission, the BSK, reviews all the cases in the country. He was one of those people.
Yeah, he was one of these people in this commission. Oh my dear, I didn't know.
There's been no discussion of the wider implications of this case in the Norwegian media, no shock or outrage in the newspapers, no apologies or excuses or explanations offered by the authorities that employed the disgraced expert. And as far as I can discover, there are no plans for a full review of the child protection decisions that he was involved in. The Expert Commission says it's looked through his reports for them, only part of his work, and found no reason for concern. Other child protection agencies I contacted won't comment on his conviction. But that won't satisfy families whose children were taken away following his involvement in their cases.
It's so easy to sweep things on the carpet when it's uncomfortable. And I think, you know, in regards to systems, when things are uncomfortable, it has to come up, it has to surface, it has to be fixed. Because if we allow it to happen, it can happen again and again and again.
The government and the Child Protection Service refused our requests for a comment on this case. They haven't been challenged hard over it within Norway, perhaps, because this is a society that tends overall to trust the state. But parents increasingly don't.
I could never have imagined that this could happen to someone like me at all. And I had a very good relationship with my daughter, I did. And I will never really get her back.
The Ministry of Children says legal safeguards for families are now being strengthened. But Norway's silent scandal can only shake their confidence in the system still further.